Hi guys, welcome back to my YouTube channel, and today I have a story for you. Stay tuned. So in today's video I just want to explain the story of how I relocated from Malawi to the Czech Republic. Well, in a nutshell, today I will simply talk about everything in general, and then in separate videos I will explain in detail how I carried out each of the processes. To begin with, the process of preparing to come to the Czech Republic started way back in 2024 when my husband moved to the Czech Republic. Cutting the long story short, for one to come here, obviously there should be a reason. There are different reasons why one can relocate or be granted a visa. This could be study, this could be work, this could be scientific research, it could be business, entrepreneurship, or family reunification. So in our case, we applied for the visa for family reunification. So for family reunification, it meant that we were following someone who was already in the Czech Republic, and one of the requirements, the one who you are following should already have the residence, their long-term residence permit. So in this case, we were following my husband, and among the documents that were required, one of them was proof of relationship. So in this case, it meant I was supposed to have a marriage certificate proving our relationship, and for our daughter it meant she had to have a birth certificate. Yeah, so of course I'll share this in the upcoming videos, but one of the crucial things that you need to make sure is that the names that are on these documents should be the exact names that are on your passports, because sometimes those simple issues are the reasons why sometimes they may not consider you. Yeah, so cutting the long story short, we had the proof of relationship documents, we had the proof of funds, because here in the Czech Republic you need to prove that you'll be able to take care of yourselves. So in this case, it could be either of us, whether my husband proving that he has enough funds, or me using my bank statements proving that I have enough funds. Because for each person there's an allocation, the standard allocation, the government allocation, that if you meet those minimums, that's when they can allow you to come. All right, so we had to prove that as well, and then we also had to prove accommodation. So this could be a tenancy agreement. Yeah, this was a tenancy agreement in our case. Remember, for the only different documents that we had in this case were the proof of relationship. The rest of the documents were the same. And then it happened that after we gathered all those documents, I took them over to the lawyer to get them legalized, and then after they got legalized, I took the documents to the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. This is at Capitol Hill in Lilongwe, and then at the ministry they notarized the documents. So they put what we call an apostille. Yeah, this is like a cover letter proving that whatever you have, authenticating your documents, proving that the documents that you are providing are authentic, they're real, and yeah, they can be trusted. So in the later videos I will explain in detail how much each of these documents costed and how long they took. Yeah, so, and then we got those documents, and then we had to send them here to the Czech Republic by DHL, because they physically had to come here for translation. And then the documents were here. I think it took about a week, and then the documents arrived here in the Czech Republic. My husband got them, sent them to the translation place, and then when they translate these authenticated documents, the translators put a seal behind, like enclosing the documentation. And then after that, the documents were sent back to us. And from there, that's when I went to the Czech Embassy website. So the closest to us is the one in Zambia. And also the one in Zambia, they clearly list that it takes people from Malawi, Zimbabwe, Namibia, as well as the Zambians, and of course people from DRC. So when the documents arrived, this is when we went on the website and then started looking for ways of booking the appointment. Lo and behold, the embassy was closed. So mind you, for me, it also meant that I had to include my police clearance certificate, and my police clearance certificate, a police clearance certificate is valid for 3 months. So you can imagine, I have gotten the documents, and then I had sent them here, time is going, and then think of the process of getting the documents back, time is going, and then now that I'm ready to present, the embassy is closed. So this was in May 2025, and the embassy was closed till August. I know. Yeah, so I had no choice but to wait. Okay, now come August, I traveled from Malawi so I was staying at the southern part of Malawi, so I had to travel to the central part because that's where buses that go to Zambia depart from. Alternatively, I could have taken a plane, but I didn't have enough money, so I had to travel to Lilongwe, the capital city. And then we left early in the morning. The bus was departing like at 6 a.m. in the morning, and then we traveled the whole day. We got to Lusaka at 9 p.m. It was an exhausting journey. Whew. But by the grace of God, God really sent helpers for me and my daughter, because in the bus, and for me, I was so anxious because I had never traveled to Zambia before. This was my first time. That was the first fear that I had. Secondly, I wasn't just traveling alone. I was traveling with then a 1-year-old baby. And in my mind, I was like, okay, what will I feed her during the way? What if she wants to change diaper? And you know how the bus is full. I had so many things in my mind. But yeah, by the grace of God, I met someone. God bless you, Gloria. Yeah, I met this lady, this beautiful lady. She was also going to Zambia to order some things for her parents. And then, yeah, we started talking in the way. And then, yeah, when we arrived, she already knew almost her whereabouts on how to go about Lusaka. So she's the one that directed me to say, okay, maybe we can use this way. And she also had her cousins coming over, so they were the ones that helped us helped me carry my bag as I was attending to baby. And then yeah, we booked the same hotel, and then yeah, we shared the room. It was just like everything was already pre-ordered, you know. And then yeah, that was on Sunday. Yeah, I think the embassy was opening on Tuesday, so I arrived on Sunday night. And then on Monday, it was just a day for us to relax and get ready for Tuesday. And then Monday came. I now had to find my way out to change money, because I didn't have Zambian kwachas. So one thing I did was to go to the website, know how much I'm supposed to pay, because they said they only received either in Czech crowns or Zambian kwacha. So I had to make sure that I had Zambian kwachas, and then I exchanged the money, and then yeah, I find food and went back to our hotel room. And then for the next day, I booked a taxi via the Younger platform, and then yeah, it dropped us. So on the website they had said first come first serve, and then by 6:30 I made sure I was at the gate. Yeah, just to, you know, to be one of the first people. And I also didn't want to spend a night in Zambia. I wanted to leave the same day. Yeah, but the whole thing was starting like at 9 a.m. All right, so after having arrived there, I found a guy who had also come to submit, but he was applying for a student visa. Yeah, so when it was 9, there were like 6 of us waiting. And then when the administrator came, he took all the documents. She took all the documents, sorry. And then yeah, went inside. So now it wasn't even about who came first. It was just about random picking. Okay, so they got the documents, and then yeah, they started calling out one by one, randomly calling out. Yeah, and then around 12, that's when they called my name, and then they were now asking about why on the documents we only have my husband's statements and not my bank statement. Of course, I told her that okay, it's because his funds were enough to prove our stay, and also my funds, I don't think they were going to make a difference anyway. Yeah, so they're like, no, but we still need your bank statements. I was like, I think these are enough based on what I think are the requirements. They're like, okay, maybe we should check again. And then she went back, and now she came now asking for, mind you, something that is not on the list of the required documents. She asked for my husband's long-term residence card. I will share with you in the next video how I got it, but all by the grace of God, I had the card, the copy of the card with me, and I just ran to my envelope and gave her. In a few minutes, she was there telling us to go in for the interview. Now inside the office, so you know, I had watched, just like you're watching, videos of people of how they were interviewed. Of course, I didn't find a lot, because many people were just talking on their experience, but not much is out there. Actually, that was one of the reasons why I decided to share this on this platform, because I didn't find much of information. But yeah, the few that I found shared how they were asked questions on where they live, where they will be living in the Czech Republic, their address, what the husband or the one they are following does, the address of where they work, and so on and so forth. So at the back of my mind, I had memorized all those things, but none of those things were asked. So I was asked a random question. It was so random, and it had nothing to do with Czech Republic. I'm going to share with you in the next video. It had nothing to do with the Czech Republic, and it caught me unaware. You know how you have prepared for something and they don't ask any of those things. Yeah, so that's how it was. And then yeah, it was just that one question. Afterwards, they collected my fingerprints, and the other thing, on the website they say children under 6 we're not supposed to pay, but it was just by the grace of God. Honestly, I had prepared, like, in case, you know, that type of thing. So they equally requested money for my daughter's application. Yeah, so I paid that in cash, and then they gave me a receipt, and I went home. Yeah, I got the bus and went back to Malawi. Yeah. So my husband's visa took about 3 weeks. Yeah, so at the back of our minds, we had like the same time frame to say, okay, despite what they write on the websites, our visa is going to come out like as soon as possible. Woo. It was not like that. Yeah, we had to wait, unexpected wait for it was supposed to be expected, but yeah, it was unexpected because of how my husband's visa had been. So we waited for, like, that was August, and then we waited for like September, October, and it came out towards end of November. I know. It was crazy. Yeah, I'll share with you the emotions during the waiting period and all those things that I had to go through during this unexpected waiting period. And then also, just to mention, you have to make sure you've gone through all the documents, like A to Z, like, you know, in detail. I don't know how it happened, but somehow I wrote a wrong email address on both forms. Like, this is a form I had filled like more than 3 times, attempting more than 3 times to make sure that there was no mistake. And on the final copy, I still made that serious mistake. Yeah, so you may be wondering how they got to know about it. It's how do I emphasize this? Just make sure that if you are submitting a document, have a copy, whether it's in printed format like a photocopy or a digital copy. It's very, very important, because once you submit those documents, you're not going to get them again. So for us, that's what saved us, by the grace of God, because when time was going, I randomly just went through what we had submitted, and that's when I realized that I had put up a wrong email address. And then I tried to contact them. I made a phone call. They were like, no, you don't have to worry about that. But, well, it's something that I'll share in the next video, but still it affected the delivery of the visa result. Yeah, because of the wrong address, the visa was out and I didn't know about it. And in the visa, they say you're supposed to collect it within 30 days. And the day I realized that the email address was wrong, it was day number 20 something. And it meant I had to collect it as soon as possible. It was crazy. Oh, yeah, but we thank God we managed to collect. And yeah, we had to buy insurance because they cannot give you the visa if you don't show insurance. And they also specify for children it's a different number of days. For an adult, it's you are supposed to buy for also a specific number of days. So we made sure that that was in order. But honestly, I still had the anxiety because I wasn't sure whether I had everything correct. Yeah, so we went back to Zambia, but this time around the journey was just tiresome for me, honestly. And I know it wasn't just for me, even for my baby. She didn't like it, and so it was like, okay, this time around when we were going to get the visa, we just start off from there. But now we also weren't sure because of what had happened. We weren't sure that okay, our insurance is okay. What if there's something wrong? I, of course, I'm the one that had that anxiousness. Yeah, so yeah, we had to book an appointment, and I was given an unrealistic date because I was still in Malawi. It was crazy, honestly, because I was in Malawi and they told me to report like the following day. And I've told you the distance. It wasn't possible for us like to travel and make it the other day, but I still tried to start off right away and catch the earliest bus, because buses don't just go anytime, they have a specific time. Yeah, so we traveled all night, started off the next day, and we managed to get to Zambia just a few hours later, past the appointment time. And at this time I had already emailed them asking them for a reschedule. Luckily they replied, now shifting it further. So I had asked for a shift to afternoon because the appointment was like in the morning, but they said no, so they shifted me. So this was Friday, so they shifted it to Monday. So it meant staying in Zambia for like the whole weekend, until Monday. And then Monday came, we went to the embassy. We were just the only ones. We gave up our passports and the insurance, and they took like forever. And at this point I was like, are we really going? And we ran out of money. It was crazy, I'm telling you. And looking at this child who is 100% looking up to me, and I as a mom, I'm so anxious. It wasn't nice at all. It wasn't. I was so stressed, honestly. But yeah, we, by the grace of God, they managed to give us. And yeah, the administrator was even like, oh, I wish you because she knows how I had struggled just to make sure they had corrected my email, just to make sure the appointment was at the right. It was just so stressful. Yeah, so yeah, by the grace of God, the next day, that's when we left, coming here, yeah, to Europe. Yeah, so I think I've talked a lot. I'll try to split these details in a number of videos, because there's a lot that happened. Like, so I just want to answer most of the questions that I also had in the videos. Like, that's why I want to include the details. And also, if you have watched this video and you have a question that you want me to address, please put it up in the comment section. Don't forget to subscribe, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye.